me a second to get everything ironed out here. It's a whole completely different setup. Mic in. Let's try 10. Hello, hello, hello. Let's try 10. 10 dB. Hey, let's see if that works. All right. I hope I'm in focus. Thank you all for being here. Excuse me if I munch a little bit. I need to replace my salt. And as the top of the show talked about, today we are going to be talking about streaming outside and some of the things that you need. If you haven't done it, streaming outside is a whole different beast. And I probably needed 2 more hours to get this fully ironed out, but I just don't have that kind of time these days because there's a lot going on right now. So I do thank you for being here. I got some comments coming in. Let's see. Kenai Sports Live says, or Keith Crawford says, did my first live stream with the Ultra and 3 Mevos. Connected through NDI, worked great until I activated my SIM card, which apparently kills NDI. Yes, because as YOLO noted, your network, where it only can understand one network. So either the internet is coming in via your local area network, whether it be your Wi-Fi or your Ethernet, or your network is your SIM. So if your network is your local area network where it sees the cameras, then when you switch to your SIM for your network, there's no cameras on the SIM connection. So that is an unfortunate situation. It's not designed for multi-networking, or understanding that I also have this network in addition to that network. The only way around that might be if you leverage the Ultra's built-in Wi-Fi, and I believe, I haven't tried it, definitely worth a video. If you try to share the Wi-Fi share the network connection from the SIM card to Wi-Fi, and then if your cameras are close enough, they can connect to the Wi-Fi that's in the YOLO box. If not, what I would then do is I would then use a separate Wi-Fi access point as a repeater or an extender, and then have them connect to that. So that would boost the strength of the network, because remember, these are Android tablets and they are not designed to be Wi-Fi access points. The backplane for handling traffic Wi-Fi, it's designed to come in. It's not designed to come in and go out. I see the same thing with people who try to use iPhones as Wi-Fi hotspots and connect all the cameras to iPhones. That doesn't work either, because iPhones are designed to receive data and show it on the screen. They're not designed to take in multiple cameras and then send out that data, multiple cameras worth of data to another device. They're not designed to do that. So that is, it's a constraint of using these devices. If you were using a computer can see the local area network, and also, I mean, generally your internet connection is going to be coming in off of that local area network. So it's kind of the same, I guess. So yes, I've got some orange juice here. It's not alcoholic drink. But I was not able to do green screen for the opening, which you normally see me in front of the background, because I am literally outside. And you could probably hear, we've got a pool party going on in the background with my son. And that's the reason I didn't have a whole lot of time, because, hey, I'm a dad first. So thank you all for being here. See if any new comments came in. Access point as an extender. Yes, exactly. So if you could use your access point as an extender from the YOLO box, that could work. And it's not restricted to the YOLO box. This would be the same for a dedicated computer. If you have your computer and you have internet connection coming on off a USB, like you're sharing your your cell phone into your laptop, and then you want to send that you need to connect multiple devices to your laptop, you're still going to need to share Wi-Fi, you know, so that everything is on the same network. You're telling the laptop to create this local area network. Otherwise, it just sees them as two different connections. I'm either plugging into the local area network, I'm plugging into Wi-Fi, or I'm plugging into the SIM card. I'm not plugged into that because it only has one plug. It seems like it's focusing on the mic rather than you. Well, I could fix that. But thanks for the note. Yes. Well, that's part of the problem in setting up by yourself. I could try and just move rack the focus a little bit. Let's try that. I don't have an assistant, so I'm going to just turn that a little bit, and you tell me whether that's better or worse. That looks okay. So, Pier Fishing, California, thank you for being here. Tell me if that worked a little bit better, I can continue to tweak it. Sorry, call that up. Okay, now you are outside. I've been outside the whole time. Say something about power. What are you using right now? Okay, I'm kind of cheating, but not really. I have AC power on the camera. Now, I could go all battery. Technically, that was my initial plan, to go all battery. But I don't know how long the battery would last in my GH3, which is what I'm using there, because I have not done this type of setup before. I like to test everything ahead of time, set them all up outside, see how long they run, see when they die. And I did not have an opportunity to test that. So in terms of what I'm using, I have AC on the camera. And these days, with portable power banks, you know, generators, basically just big lithium-ion batteries, you can bring a plunk of a battery and then run AC to your camera. And I'm using AC to a DC converter into the battery adapter, which goes into the camera. I was planning on using my YOLO box. Actually, let me go to my wide shot. You can see my whole setup here. Here I am in the yard. I got my drink. I got my little YOLO box right here. I got my microphone. And I was planning on using the YOLO box built-in battery, but just as I was setting up, it completely tanked out. And again, that's pre-show prep, and I didn't have a lot of pre-show prep. As a dad, this morning was basically taking care of my son, going food shopping, cleaning everything up, and then starting to get ready for the show. So I had about an hour and a half. I did the pre-build on this. This is a motorized slider. I did a pre-build on this yesterday, but I did not set everything up outside long in advance. And because I don't do this show regularly outside, this is a completely new setup, so I don't have that all set up. You are still not in focus. Okay, so let me try the other way. See, if I had somebody just be able to push the button from here. J Phil says hello from Atlantic City. Thank you for being here. Would you say using a Nighthawk with an Ethernet over a Wi-Fi hotspot or a SIM card in the YOLO Box Ultra? Would you say? Would I recommend? The question then is, how are the cameras connecting? Because then the YOLO Box is seeing an Ethernet network. Again, you're plugging in to a network. And unless your cameras are on that same network. Now, if you're using I brought this out here because I have done, it still looks soft to me. No difference in focus. Well, thanks a lot, camera. Hang on. Oops. That should work better. It looks a little better to me. Thank you for the constant comments. Apparently it was still in single, not manual focus. So I was rotating the dial on the lens and the camera would say, nope, I'm focused. So Hello from India. GD Creation says hello from India. He is in focus. Just transmission is about 5,000. Actually, my transmission, my broadcast is about 3 megabits. I'm doing 3 megabits. Normally I do about 4, but right now I'm doing 3, and it's Wi-Fi to outside. So we'll see how it works. Let me get back to the other question. If you use a hotspot like the Nighthawk and you are going to use the Ethernet into your YOLO box, the same network is available via Wi-Fi from the hotspot itself. So if your cameras connect to the hotspot via Wi-Fi, it's the same network unless you set up a private network or an isolated network. But generally it would be the same network via the wire or wireless from here. And here's the caveat. The Netgears can overheat. I've seen in various forums where the Netgears overheat. And there's a couple different ways you can get around that. Like, I'm outside, it is, it's actually, my watch doesn't say what the temperature is, but my phone would if I knew where my phone was. Oh, here it is. Let's see what my phone says the temperature is right now. Again, I'm in the shade, it's about 90 degrees. So I'm in the shade at 90 degrees. Most equipment would not have a problem with that. But if you are in the sun and this is getting beat down by the sun, and you're running off the internal battery, I have had it overheat and it just shuts off. And when it shuts off, you lose your connection to your cameras, you lose your connection to the internet, you lose everything. So what I did on an outdoor wedding that I was doing is I took the Ethernet out of this and I ran it into a separate wireless access point. At that time, I was using the Google Wi-Fi hotspots. So just as a backup, and that hotspot was placed more where the cameras were, and this was placed higher up on a hill to try and access distant cellular capability. Well, it was in the sun though, it wasn't in the shade. But I kind of needed it up on the hill because I was in the middle of an orchard, and that's where the couple decided to get married, and cell signal down where the cameras were was non-existent, but it was available up on this little, rise of dirt. So I had my tripod, push this thing up 12 feet in the air, and that's where I had internet. So what I had to do was bring this down, find a way to cool this off, and 3 key ways to have your Netgear run cooler. First thing is, keep the sun off of it. If you just want to build like a little a white cardboard cover with some, and then, some magnets on top of this so you can put it up here on stilts, that is going to keep this thing in the shade while also letting the air flow around it. That's going to help it stay ambient temperature, because if the sun's beating on it, it's going to be 120 degrees, 40, 45 degrees Celsius. It's going to get really, really hot, and it's done. If you keep it in the shade and the air can blow across it, it's going to run longer. The bottom has a removable cover, and that's where the battery is. There have been people who have said, now there's a bunch of holes in the bottom too. You take the battery out, you're running off of an external USB-C power bank, and then you attach this up, you can even put it upside down, up on top, and now it's even more able to cool itself because the air can get inside to where the electronics are as opposed to being blocked off. The reason you don't want to leave the battery in there while doing this is because you're going to activate a charging circuit. And the battery's going to become warm, the charging circuit's going to become warm inside of an enclosed space that you're already trying to cool off. So the best solution that from multiple people that I've heard over the course of the many years the Netgear's been out is to outside power, remove the battery, keep it in the shade, keep the sun off of it, but the airflow still needs to happen. Like, don't get a white plastic bag and wrap this thing in a plastic bag, because then it gets no airflow and it will die. So that, figure out how to put this back together, is a quick tip on keeping your Netgear, that doesn't work that way, keeping your Netgear up and running in, there we go, up and running in super summer heat. Shade, external power, open it up, and make sure there's airflow around it. Let me scroll down, see if we got some new comments. In focus, thank you. Glad to see someone streaming outside. Yes, literally outside. And again, I wish I had more time to prepare. I would have been in focus from the start. And but outside definitely has its own challenges. You know, from mounting cameras, you can't use tape because tape will melt in the heat and it gets all gooey and everything. So Velcro is going to be your friend. Do you have any thoughts using a LiveView Pro Solo with a YOLO box? You can. Again, I am in the shade. So my YOLO box is in the shade, but I am streaming via Wi-Fi to my house. So I'm not out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not using a SIM connection, a SIM card right now. In terms of bonding, I think both devices offer good bonding services. LiveView, of course, has the upper hand because it's been around way longer, and it has that adaptive bit rate, so that if your SIM connections are being hampered by a large audience also using cellular, then it's able to lower the bit rate. It's able to even adjust the frame size from 1080 to 720 just to keep that signal going through. The YOLO box can't do that. But if you're not going to be hamstrung like that, I think the YOLO box offers the ability to have it all in one and not have to deal with powering two devices outside in the heat, keeping them both cool enough and running and everything. But there's also something to be said for dividing your tasks so that you've got your YOLO box doing the streaming and you've got the LiveView doing the bonding and the encoding and getting it out there. And I'm sorry, you use the YOLO box for the camera switching and everything else. What you're going to lose though is like what I have here is the comments. Because if the YOLO is streaming via APIs to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch or whatever, then you're going to be able to pull those comments in. If you're handing off encoding and streaming to something else, then what you have is you've separated the two tasks. Now the push to YouTube happens somewhere else and you can't get the comments back into the show unless you do some wonky workarounds with even more equipment. But the whole goal of the YOLO box and the LiveView is portability, compactness, you know, run and gun type of thing. Carlos Phoenix says he uses a tough signal with YOLO, and that is a solution whereby it's a bonded cellular encoder that provides Wi-Fi or an Ethernet connection to your YOLO box. So your YOLO box sees a direct connection through a bonded internet connection. Oh, good. And the cicadas are out today too. Live show outside. You get what you get. The key thing with those things, like a PepLink or the tough signal that Carlos is talking about, is that they are bonding internet. Whereas a LiveView or a Curated video, they bond the video signal. They take that video that you're giving them and they encode that and send it. You don't get bonded internet back. You don't get that. But with the tough signal and a PepLink, and there's other solutions that do it too. With those type of solutions, what they're doing is they're bonding multiple internet connections into a bonded internet connection. Has nothing to do with video. You could just use it for browsing the web or checking your email, updating, you know, your social media pages, you know, things like that. But it's bonded, so you have a reliable signal. Now, you can use that for streaming. And then your streaming is taking advantage of a bonded signal. But at the same time, if you do it from the YOLO box or Magewell Director Mini or any device that has the ability to pull comments back in, like a laptop with vMix, you're able to have that bi-directional communication through that internet, that bonded internet connection. So that is something that is a great advantage when you are out and about, not just bonding your outbound video, but having a bonded internet for all your needs. So that's a big advantage. Like if I stream from the YOLO box, I can't use that bonded signal anywhere else. I can't use my phone through the YOLO box to check to make sure the signal's good and see how many viewers I have. It doesn't work that way. Whereas if I have that, what did you call it? Tough signal or the PepLink, you're able to hook up multiple devices. Hey, let me just open my laptop and make sure the chat's working. And let me just, oh, let me see, let me pop up some questions and run some polls and stuff like that. And it's using an bonded internet connection to do all your tasks across multiple devices, as opposed to just being for that one little purpose. That's what's a really advantage. It doesn't put the whole comment up, Carlos, but I'll say Carlos resells these things. He offers the PepLink. You get bonded Wi-Fi, which you can control, and they can increase the amount of signals on the fly. He can get it up to 15 or more connections, which is a lot of connections. So definitely something to consider when you are going to be out and about and you can't rely on whatever internet might, there's not going to be any internet connection from the facility. Maybe there is no facility, you're just at a ballpark or something like that, and you need multiple cellular signals so that you can make sure that your outbound stream goes through if one, it's balancing the load across all of them. Not to be confused with load balancing. Another key element of being outside is taking care of yourself. I know a lot of people who go outside and they're prepared and they spend all the time on the gear and the batteries and the cabling and the Wi-Fi and everything. But it's like sunscreen, a hat, the right clothes to protect your skin and everything like that. Hydrate, drink lots of fluids, make sure you are staying cool, because you can't take care of any other problems and you can't switch the show if you start having problems. You are one of the pieces out there, and you need to make sure you stay cool, you stay hydrated, you stay fed, and as you sweat you lose salt. So I've got some salty chips here, and by doing all that you can stay on your game and take care of things better and easier than you would if you were completely focused on the gear and you didn't bring, it's like if you were just going out there by yourself to the game, to a ballpark, you would be, oh, okay, I need sunscreen, I need sunglasses, I need a hat, I need, let's bring a little cooler with some drinks and stuff like that, and pack it with ice and some snacks and everything. You got to do that for the production too, and you don't think very often, we are so focused on making sure the production runs right, we forget to think about that we run right. And that is a very important consideration in my mind. CJ Man says, ND filters. Yes, I could have used one on here. Again, I was very time compressed before setting up for today's show. I literally started setting up out here a half hour before going live, and all kinds of things happened. The slider got off balance. I had to run and get some sandbags. The YOLO box decided to just tank out, and I had to the first power adapter I got didn't work. The second power adapter I got is working, and somehow in the span of 28 minutes I've gone from 0 to 67% power while also streaming and recording and producing a show, which I don't believe. So I think the battery in this one, I've had this one for several years, I think the battery in this one is probably getting so old that it doesn't know where it is. So hopefully they have a battery calibration tutorial for the YOLO boxes, because I know some other devices like the Mevos, they have a battery calibration so that when they get confused, or if they're always plugged in, the battery doesn't know where full and where empty is because it's always plugged in. But ND filters, you can see my hand is a little stroboscopic. That's because I've got a 1/300th shutter on the camera so that I can have the low aperture. I think I'm at 1.7, and the low ISO of 200 on my GH3 there. If you go to the webcam, it's probably also going to be very stroboscopic because they don't even have apertures. But yeah, I've got 2 cameras. I'm switching between 2 cameras out here. That was part of the thing. I've got 2 cameras going. I've got slides and everything. And I would be remiss to tell everyone I am streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, I'm not able to get comments from LinkedIn today because I'm streaming via RTMP, not via the API, because outside and I don't have my restream. So everything is happening in the YOLO box. But if you are new to StreamTek, you can find more information on the StreamTek YouTube channel, which is at Stream Technology, but StreamTek on YouTube, where you will find all the past shows, all the video tutorials, all kinds of gear reviews and demos, and also interviews with people who are in the streaming industry. And then I just started a new series talking about various studio visits. I call them critiques. I think maybe I'll change that title. It's not so much a critique, but just talking about the choices that were made. Also, there's a StreamTek page on Facebook, which is where the stream goes to on Facebook, so you can be notified if you are a heavy Facebook user. That way, you could click like and follow there. And I don't put out a ton of stuff, so you could even say, you know, show all notifications, because there's not like 5 things happening a day. I'm not going to swamp you with updates. Just an update on this, I've got the AirMix group on Facebook. So that is the free Curated multi-camera live streaming, recording, instant replay, green screen, all kinds of, you know, great audio mixer in an iPad. So if you got some old iPads or iPhones or iPod touches with the cameras in them, you could put all that and make a studio and do live streaming and recording, and the app costs you nothing. However, there's no support for it anymore because Curated released it to the public, and you can join this group. There's only 5 people in it when I took this picture this morning, and we'll share comments and tips and tricks and help get people up to speed on that. And then lastly, if you need consulting or want to reach out to me, you can do that through my Stream For Us page. There's a little contact form right on the website. So thank you all for being here. Because I am on just the YOLO box, I have no idea how many people are watching today. It's just a completely open show, and I could probably use my phone to see how many people are watching on YouTube. And as part of a live show, you help drive the show. You're here, I'm here, you get to ask questions, we get to talk about this live. If I hit play. No, it's actually not showing me on my phone. On mobile, it's not showing me. Well, so I'm just going to let that go. And if you have questions about live streaming, or you have tutorials that you'd like to see done, like the Netgear actually came about because I saw somebody asking about how to keep their Netgear cool when they're filming outside, and it applies to any sort of hotspot. You know, it's like even if you've got like another, you know, I've got this one from T-Mobile, and while you can't take the battery out, I probably wouldn't advise it. Maybe you could, because the SIM card's got to go in here. The keeping it cool is still a key provision to making sure that it doesn't die. Nope, I'm not going to get it open. It doesn't die in the heat. That the sun is beating on it right now, doesn't make this thing overheat. And then it's got a USB, so you can take the USB and tell through the menu system, tell it to you know, export your signal via USB as opposed to Wi-Fi. And then hey, there's another option, because remember, if you have the Netgear and if you're going to feed the internet signal via Ethernet to something else, you can turn off the Wi-Fi the transmitters in. You just turn them off, and then that way there's even less running in your hotspot, because you've made it so it's doing as little as possible, as few things. It's not charging, It's not trying to, you know, use up the battery. It's got airflow. It's got all these things, and it's providing the internet out the Ethernet cable to another device that's providing the Wi-Fi access point, and that way you're able to access this from multiple devices and use NDI and use your tail airs and be able to pan and tilt and zoom and do all of that. YOLOBox Ultra Invite Guest Mode, is it free? Great question. Thanks for popping in there. Yes, it is free. You can invite 5 people, and the Ultra, because it has mix minus, is the first YOLOBox that you're really going to be able to make use of the remote guest feature. I've done several videos for YOLO Live on the remote guest feature. It's a really cool feature. You can't really use it for remote cameras because the cameras aren't in sync with each other like they would be if they were on the same local area network, because they're going up to the cloud, and each one may have a different path to go through the internet and back to your YOLOBox. The advantage though is you don't have to worry about that local area network thing. You know, if you were doing a bike race, thank you, wow, they're loud today. If you were doing a bike race and you needed to have a camera at the starting line, a camera at the finish line, and a camera at a checkpoint way over there, you could just have them come in as remote guests, and you get the audio from each of those as well. So when you go to those devices, when you go to those locations, you could even have one person as an interviewer, and they just go up and say, hey man, how's it going? So what do you think about today's race? And you get that audio going into the camera, into your show. And because the remote guest can hear the show, there's a feed to them as well. They know when they're on, they can hear you introduce them, and they can properly prepare and be ready for that shot, which is really cool. And yes, it is free. It's built into the YOLO suite of services when you buy the box. When they introduced it, I kind of thought the remote guest feature would be an add-on, a paid add-on, because it's using their server. They have to create this cloud connection, and they're providing that service. Just like YOLO Live provides multi-streaming or multicasting, so that you can send one stream. I'm sending a single 3 megabit stream, but I'm sending it to their server, which then bounces it out to 3 different locations. And I don't have to pay any other service to go to 3 destinations from my single stream, which lowers my internet demand where I'm at and still lets me go to multiple locations. That's a great feature. Plus, by using the APIs, I am able to, again, pull comments and everything in from those destinations. I personally wish YOLO would go out and get more APIs. Get a Twitter API, get a LinkedIn API, I mean, there's a bunch of APIs that they could put in here to make it easier to stream to other platforms. But right now, it's just YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And if you're getting traction on Twitch, send me an email and tell me how to do it, because I've been streaming to Twitch for probably a year now, and I'm getting 0 traction. So, time to hydrate. If you like today's motion control, that's being provided by YOLO YC Onion. Oh, it's also trash day. So we're going to get to listen to trash trucks. It's a banner day. So that's the nature of being outside. That's the nature of live streaming, is that everything happens. I have no control over public utilities. I have no control over the cicadas. I have no control over the sun and the heat. It's not raining today, so there's a bonus. And got the camera up and running and the slider. So I'm controlling the slider via an app, and it's doing a nice little ping pong back and forth. And that's providing the motion that you see in the background here. So it's going to start moving in the opposite way now, slowly. So you see this tree right here is going to slowly move behind my head. And I'm not doing that. It's because the camera is moving. I could make it go faster, but I didn't want to have it draw too much attention to itself. But it does provide a little bit of added polish to things. And again, we're here for the live show. It's only 11:30. Throw some questions, throw some comments into Facebook and YouTube, which is the two places that I am getting comments. If you're watching on LinkedIn, again, go over to one of the other outlets. I am not streaming to Twitch today. I am not streaming to Twitter today because those I use the studio and I have a connection to Restream there, so I'm able to stream to 6 different destinations. But I'm outside. That's the whole key of today. And it is very interesting. Which is best, NDI versus invite guest mode? They're completely different things. NDI is great if you want to bring in multiple cameras that are on your local network. And it works when you don't have internet. So if you just wanted to record a seminar, a class presentation or something like that, corporate conference or something like that, awards show or something, you know, you're not going to stream it. NDI is your local area network. Yes, it can go to the internet. It can be, you know, there's an NDI bridge and things like that, but primarily NDI is networked video on a network. NDI is also really useful if you want to send one camera to 2 switchers. Both switchers can see that one camera over the local area network. So you could have one person switching an English version of something and a second person switching a Spanish version of something. And both of those cameras, that one camera is going to be visible on both devices because NDI. The guest mode is when you want to bring in, is primarily for when you want to bring in a remote guest who's not on the local area network. It is not something that you would really leverage for cameras in the same room because multiple cameras are going to have different timings going through the internet. And why go to the internet and back down to my YOLO box when the camera is right there? There's really no need. So that's where the local area network. Unfortunately, YOLO, while they have talked about it in the group as far as a year or more ago, have talked about making an app to connect directly to the YOLO box. They haven't. Other tools like the Magewell Director Mini, which I normally use in my studio, I was tempted to do this one, but I just went with this. Like the Magewell Director Mini comes with a well-designed, fully laid out mobile app for both iOS and Android. Even works on my Kindle Fire tablet. Works on all the devices I've tested it on, and it allows you to choose between controlling your Director Mini, so you can go in and do audio mixing, you can switch the cameras, you can do titles, you can actually have 3 different people do 3 different tasks. And you can connect as a remote camera. Again, 3 cameras, 3 remote cameras. It seems to be this magical number 3. On the YOLO box, it's 3 NDIs. On the Director Mini, it's 3 remote cameras. I don't know why 3, it just is. But that is a direct connection between that camera and me. So if I'm sharing a network, you know, a hotspot, that camera goes to the hotspot, not hotspot, that camera goes to the Wi-Fi access point, then to me. And my device goes from here, Wi-Fi access point, to them. So again, because it's local and it's not NDI, the Director Mini allows you 3 NDIs and 3 phone connections, 3 mobile device connections. And I was like, that's 6 wireless cameras running around the room. And you didn't have to buy any Holy Lands or anything like that. I believe Streamlabs allows you to set up an image saying we will be back if you turn off the stream or lose connection. Is there anything out there that will work on the YOLO box? Well, you could run YOLO box into Streamlabs. That's one thing. There are some services, like I know Teradek Core, when I was using Core with my live view. If the live view were to fail, it had the ability for me to upload a slide ahead of time so that it would fail over to the slide, and then when the signal recovered, it would come back up. I don't know if YOLO Live's YOLO Cast service offers that, but the YOLO Cast service does offer ASP, which is just a really weird ASP. It's a big buffer. It's like a minute-long buffer, so that you're streaming, and then the server waits a full minute before it starts sending it. It's like a big water can in the cloud. And you also, because when you're running ASP through YOLO Cast, it buffers on your device too, so that if your internet connection, let's just say you're using one SIM, if your SIM can't get signal for 5-10 seconds, your YOLO box knows to fill up. Meanwhile, that big water bucket that you've got in the cloud slowly starts pouring out. It's got a minute worth of data. So you're filling up, it's playing out, but you've got no connection. And it'll keep going, it'll keep going, it'll keep going, and at 45 seconds later, you're able to say, oh, okay, whatever happened with that tower, it's now cleared up. I've now got a cellular connection again. It's then going to start sending everything that I've buffered, and the water can that is ASP in YOLO Live, it's down to here, but it's still not empty. And then you just start going to fill it back up. And now it's got a minute worth of data again. And that is a very resilient way to ensure that even if you're not using bonding, you have the ability to overcome glitches here and there. And especially in terms of like, none of that's going to happen because you're not streaming in real time. You're pushing data with a buffer, so that if it doesn't get something, it can wait. Okay, now I got it. You know, it can do that wait and make sure it gets it again, because you've got the buffering on both sides. So ASP is really useful. Alan Winston says, I did my first outside live stream several months back and ran into issue with sun and overheating. Any ideas of ways we can clamp an umbrella or something to help protect the sun unit from sun and heat? Yes. Mentioned a little bit of that very early in the show and when I was talking about the Netgear, but definitely they make little umbrellas. You see them on Amazon. They're like this big, you know, and somebody just posted in one of the groups that I'm in, you know, this is their setup. And yeah, they had a little umbrella over the camera. Now I'm using a GH3. My GH3s and GH4s, I have 6 of them, have never overheated and stopped working. And I have used them in direct sun. Now, it's not a GH5 and it's not a GH6, which requires its own fan. These are, you know, not that level of camera, but I love them because they have never failed me. It's hard to do the remote focus, and I didn't have time to get the app set up and do that, you know, through the app. But I love these cameras, and they are in my arsenal because I have used them for years. Used them and produced hundreds of realtor videos, you know, on various locations. Middle of the summer here in Texas, and I'm filming outside and doing multiple takes, and they just keep running. So, selecting the right gear. So if a Sony is known to be prone to overheating, don't use that camera outside. It's already going to be, you know, hampered normally. If you put it outside in an obscenely hot environment with the sun beating down on it, it has no chance of surviving. Start with a camera, start with devices that you know will work in the heat. Mevo published information that a third-party company had done heat testing at 120 degrees in an oven. The camera was still working. It did not shut down. That is very impressive. So finding gear that people swear just works in the heat is the first key thing. Second thing, like you said, is keeping the sun off of it, whether it be a little umbrella or, like I was saying with the Netgear, you get yourself a big piece of cardboard with a couple stilts and some magnets on here. You build a solution so that when you get out there, you just put this like little awning over top of your Netgear to keep the sun off of it. But I'm not sticking it on here because I still want the airflow. you know, even if it's 90 degrees or like 38 degrees Celsius, like where I'm at right now, being in the shade with airflow is much, much different than having the sun beat on this thing and make it be 120 degrees of heat in the sun. I have used this in the sun and it did die on me. So that's the second thing. And then, like I was also saying, with the Netgear, take the battery out, make sure there's good airflow all around it, inside of it, because you know there's actually holes in the bottom of this, and if you can get airflow and heat to leave with more airflow, take the battery out, then you're able to have more success in combating the heat of the sun. Janet says, excellent info. Thank you, Janet. GD Creation says, can I install third-party apps on the YOLOBox Ultra just like Speedify app? I believe you can. There is a tutorial on YouTube already about how to install third-party apps on the YOLOBox. You can install Speedify if you don't want to use YOLO Lives bonding. But then, you're asking the device to do more. So you have to think about how much CPU you want to use up doing different things. You might look at, there's, you know, Facebook groups and other solutions out there where you can get a Raspberry Pi and plug in a bunch of sticks and have the Raspberry Pi run Speedify in Linux and then provide over the Ethernet a bonded signal. What that does is it's less for the YOLOBox to do, plus you're able to utilize that bonded internet on more devices. So if you wanted to then use your cell phone and go in and make sure the YouTube is up and running, or fix a problem, or delete a bad comment or something like that, you can do that because you've got that bonded internet connection, not bonded video, bonded internet connection. Yes, if you put the Speedify on your YOLOBox, you're putting it on the device that you're going to do streaming. Technically, you could do more things with it, like you can browse the web, but you'd have to browse the web on the YOLOBox. Whereas if you put it on an external device, you get more value from your Speedify connection by making it available in more places. Look at that, 51 minutes. I'm at 100% power, and I don't believe that for a minute because this, like I said, I went outside and the battery tanked out in a matter of minutes. So test. If you haven't seen on the YOLO Live site, if you haven't seen, on the StreamTek site, I did a 7 tips for mobile internet success, and in that, first, provide your own Wi-Fi. Always provide your own Wi-Fi. Don't expect any facility to provide good Wi-Fi, but test. And I broke a bunch of my own rules. I'm gonna say right now, I broke a bunch of my own rules for today's show, hoping that things would work out, but thankfully they did. I think it was pretty close there, getting the pre-show up and running on time. But like I says, I came out here when I started setting up an hour and a half before going live. This YOLOBox was at 95%, and then within a half hour I came out here, boom, it just turned off because the battery is several years old and batteries wear out. That's actually one reason I like the Director Mini in terms of having a portable device. While it's convenient to have the battery built in, and it's a big battery on like the Ultra, if you have the YOLOBox Mini, it's not as big a battery and it's going to wear out, and there isn't a battery replacement program. Despite the EU saying you have the right to repair or things like that, you're kind of stuck at what's going to be available. I'm wondering if the battery on the slider just went out. I'm going to go check that. Yep. So the slider will slide for 1 hour and 2 minutes with the battery that was in it. and it's on a bit of an incline, so but it's not a very heavy camera. So the camera is going to stay right there for now on and not going to move because the slider battery has died. But I still have two cameras. Here's my wide camera. This is my whole setup right here. I got the PK1 stand on my YOLOBox Pro, and I've got my microphone. There's like this cold shoe on the back here, but the holder I wanted to put the microphone in wouldn't fit in the cold shoe. So I don't know what measurements this cold shoe is using because it fits on top of cameras fine. So anyway, Al says, watching from home today, out for the summer from Pico Riviera, California. Well, great to see you, Al. And he's home from school because he teaches kids how to do media production. And if you haven't seen our conversation series, Al, let's bring him back up again. Oops. Al has been featured in our conversations series, so go check him out. It's actually a really cool discussion about empowering kids, and I am amazed at the technology, the technological prowess kids have today. I went to school, I didn't see anything having to do with video production, television production until high school, and then it was a very limited group of people who did it. And you know, now kids today, everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's doing media, you know, it's completely different. So thank you, Al, for watching in. Please talk about cord management on both cement and grass surfaces. I'm sure we'll talk wireless options as well. Cord management, oh, that's actually a real legit concern, especially on grass. Like if you're on cement, they make tracks. You can't use tape. They make tracks that you could, you know, these big plastic things, you open the top, you lay all your cables in them, you close the top, and what they do is they provide a ramp. So people see them, they're eye-catching. It's like, hey, watch out, there's stuff here. And people are like, oh, people still trip over it. People are completely ignorant when they're at an event. They're like, oh, they're talking to someone, they're not looking where they're going. But those things at least are very visible for the people who do watch. And if somebody's moving a cart with a lot of heavy ice and, you know, sodas and stuff like that, you don't want them to mash your cables, so that those tracks protect your cables. They can be used on grass and on little entryway carpets, like 3 feet by 4 feet. You know, little mats like you would find when you walk in or something like that. Those mats are super cheap. You can get them online, and they're great when I need to, like, I can run things across a wall, run them along effectively. You need to cross an opening where people walk. You throw that carpet down, you know, and that and a visible way that people know something is different. It's not your standard surface, so that people aren't kicking and grinding in your cables together. Your cables are protected from that carpet. If you can throw things through the air, that simplifies things a little bit. You know, if you're at a big event where there's a lot of people, you want to make sure all your wireless is like let's do this, way up in the air. You know, have your wireless receivers up in the air. You don't want to have them down here on the table, because if there's people between you and the camera, then what's going to happen is people are like, you know, what are we, 95% water? Radio frequencies don't go through water. They're absorbed by water. And if you put enough water between your transmitter and your receiver, you're not going to get a signal. It might bounce around off of things, but when you're outdoors, a big open field, there's a lot less stuff to bounce that signal around. There's no ceiling, there's no walls, you know, so that signal goes out, and that's it. And if you can't get that direct line of sight, you have no chance of getting that signal. So make sure that the transmitter, you know, that's why you see during games, you know, the camera operator like this has got an antenna, and the antenna is up here. It also protects their head from the RF, but it's also up and above in case they're in the middle of a crowd. And then the receivers are always up high, and they'll have directional antennas looking in the direction, because you don't need an omnidirectional antenna on the receiver. You're very often off to one side and all your devices are in front of you. So if you have directional antennas aiming in that direction, you're improving the amount of signal that you're taking in, as opposed to having just a single antenna that's receiving from all directions. 99% of it is not what you want. 1% of it is. So thanks for the question. It's a good concern. Like right now, I just have one AC cable going into the house, and I have my power. That power cable goes to the camera. I have an HDMI from the camera into my YOLO box, and I have a USB camera from the webcam, which is on top of the Lumix, on top of my GH3. And with those two cameras, hey, I didn't even ask about the sync. I added about 90 milliseconds of delay to the microphone, which is coming in analog to the microphone input, and the YOLO box is powering this microphone. I did a review of the Osee the GoStream, that's it, GoStream Duet. And the microphone input number 1 is supposed to be powered. And this microphone, which you're hearing right now, powered by the YOLO box, and I've used it plugged into my A10 Mini, did not work on the Osee, even when I had it set to power on. So I know the microphone works, and I like the fact that the YOLO box provides microphone power to make this simple. I don't have to come up with a different solution. I just plug this in and hey, it's working. GD Creation says the YOLO box Ultra can work outdoor 45-degree hot wave. Wow, that is hot. That is hot. 45 degrees Celsius is hot. Where are you that you're doing outdoor stuff at 45 degrees with the Ultra? And another key thing to consider is when you've got these devices, these tablets, one of the biggest uses of power is the screen. And the screen also generates heat. So the screen is reflecting. My position here is not a mistake. It's not just random. I put a tree behind me so that when I look at the screen, it's shielded from the sky. Otherwise, I'd have to turn up the brightness on this device really high. If the bright sky was behind me, then the screen would have to be a lot brighter, meaning this would use a lot more power, and it would also get hotter because the screen backlighting uses power, and power usage is heat. And that means if you got to crank it up, and the Ultra has one of the brightest screens of all the YOLO boxes, if you crank that thing up outdoors fighting the sun, you're using the battery up faster, and you are going to be creating heat in the device, which is something you really don't want to do. So in keeping your YOLO box cool, it's a touch screen, I don't really want to touch it, but I can feel that it is warm. In keeping your device cool, you want to make sure that you're minimizing the tasks that it does. You know, I even strongly considered not using the USB camera so that I didn't use USB in, which I know is going to be asking more of the processor in the Pro. The less I ask it to do, the less hard it's working, the less heat it's creating. So I'm very curious. Give me a moment. I want to get my temperature gauge, and I want to measure the temperature of my YOLO box right now in the shade. So give me a second. All right. Thank you all for bearing with me. I have a nice little temperature gauge here. It says the sidewalk over there in the sun is 43 degrees Celsius and 111 degrees Fahrenheit. It says The shade is 33 degrees Celsius, 91 degrees Fahrenheit. And my YOLO box is 41 degrees Celsius and 107 degrees Fahrenheit. That's my YOLO box. I don't think I'm going to get a different reading. It seems pretty warm. Oh, I got 110, 111. Yeah, it's pretty warm. 108. So it's warmer in the upper right-hand corner. 112, which is 44 degrees on the right-hand side of the YOLO box. So using this stand was even a consideration. I needed to make sure that this had airflow. So I'm using the PK1 stand here on this tiny little makeshift table. And that is ensuring that there's airflow behind it, there's airflow above it, and it's not resting flat on the table. It's not in an enclosure. And oh, that's one thing I wanted to talk about too. If you have a cell phone, if you're using cell phones for your streaming, you know, we like to have them protected in cases, but you're going to find they're going to run really hot. You're going to want to take it out. You're going to want to, you know, clamp it, but you're going to want to make sure that it has airflow. And they even now make little coolers that you can put against it, and you know, for the cell phones for gaming. So take a look at those, but you know, keeping your cell phone cool is also a challenge. Keep the sun off of it, keep the airflow around it. Don't keep it in a case, because the case will hold that heat in and the phone will have a harder time getting rid of the heat, and phones will shut down if they're not kept cool. When are you applying super chat, super stickers, and membership? I had considered that on my StreamTek channel, and I haven't done it yet, because when you go through the process for membership, it asks you to create icons for every single level that you want to create. I'm like, I haven't gotten around to creating icons, so I can't make anything until I create icons. I kind of figured they just would have let you do it and then customize it later, but no, right from the beginning they're like, all right, upload your icon. I'm like, I don't have icons. So, and it's also a question as to what does one do differently for membership versus people who are not members. So that's a good question. So, you know, applying for membership and having membership is good, and then people can say, hey, you're doing a great job, let me send you $1, whatever. There's value in that, but at the same time, you also want to respect people who sign up for membership, because as American Express would always say, membership has its privileges. What are those privileges? What do people get for being a member? Streaming outside via Wi-Fi using my, this is it, this is the entire streaming studio. This is why I'm looking down a lot more than normal. Normally I'm able to keep looking right there because I have a screen underneath of it, but today I just, you know, I created this rule. In college, I came up with a rule for production. And the complex. Choose the simple, because doing it well will be complex enough. And so I didn't want to bring extra monitors and wireless mics and I tried to keep it as simple as possible, although I did set up the slider last night to see how well that would work, because I'm doing a review of the YC Onion hot dog slider, and I wanted to give it a good test out here. So thank you all for coming. Once again, if you are new to StreamTek, sign up, please subscribe, find a video you like, and if you really want to do me a solid, if you could share one of my videos on your social somewhere so that other people see it, that would be super cool, because it's all about reaching people that that aren't in my already existing members. And also you could like the StreamTek page on Facebook, where the announcements for the streams go out, and then other information. And then excuse me, we have the AirMix group if you're interested in that free program. And if you need to reach out to me for consulting, other advice, and things like that, you can always send me, go to the contact page at stream4.us, Stream for Us. So thank you all, and with that, I will bid you adieu for today. Wait, I have a graphic for that. Thank you.